let's get right into Thursday night football. It was a butt kicking that was still ugly. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know. The Jets absolutely just hammer the Patriots. C-Rob, what am I supposed to make of that game?
Well, look, everyone's talking about how Aaron Rodgers moved, right? I think that's the thing when you watch that game. I'm sitting there and I'm staring at it and I'm thinking, of all the film that you watched, if you go ahead and go to the all 22 in week 2 and going into week 3, you sit there and you look at Derek Carr with the Saints and you go, why does Derek Carr look like he's 5, 6, 7 years younger when he's playing on the field right now? The way he looks physically, the way he's moving, he's navigating, he's sliding around and being elusive. And yet I think that's the last thing on earth that we expected from Aaron Rodgers, right? Gray beard, looks, I'm sorry, look, from the shoulders up, looks older than ever. And yet he's out there not only running, but he's sliding around the pocket. He's being elusive. He's throwing on the run with insane accuracy. The touchdown pass, obviously rolling to his right to Garrett Wilson, was probably one of the best passes I've seen Aaron Rodgers throw in 3, 4, 5 years. He looked like the MVP that the New York Jets thought they were getting. Now it's one night, and we'll see if this is sustainable, but that to me was remarkable. You just don't see quarterbacks at his age suddenly, all of a sudden, turn the clock back 5, 6 years on their career and look like a mid-30s player again, and that's what Rodgers did.
I think the one caveat here is, are the Patriots good? Like, we kind of jumped the gun and we're like, oh my God, they beat the Bengals. And, okay, well, maybe the Patriots are just bad. But I don't care. You beat another NFL team the way they did, a non-Panthers NFL team anyway. And I mean, at one point, there's 4:20 left in the game, and the Jets had 400 yards and the Patriots had 93. Like, this was utter domination. And I always said all offseason when I was really high on the Jets, and I picked them to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC and all that by the end, I said, Aaron Rodgers just needs to be average. Just be the 15th best quarterback in football. And he looked like a lot better than that last night. Like, it really did. Like, you were right, Charles. Like, he was moving in a way that you're like, whoa, this is actually, none of my fears are there anymore with him.
Whether the Patriots are good or bad that has no bearing on his movement. He was not moving like a guy who tore his Achilles, right? He was not moving like a guy, a 40-year-old quarterback. He was moving like the young Aaron Rodgers. And again, look, Frank, you and I are on the wrong side of 40, right? It can be
speak for yourself.
It can be a good day. It can be a bad day. I am not moving like I was moving when I was in my mid-30s. Okay. It doesn't matter what my opponent is. I'm sure as hell not looking like I'm 10 years younger than I really am. And yet Aaron Rodgers was.
The worst part about being on the wrong side of 40 for all of us is that, man, there's no rhyme or reason to why one day's good and the next day's just awful. Right. And I can't figure it out.
No reason.
I'm working out so hard, and then one day I'm like, I'm a beast, and the next day I'm like, what am I doing? I can't even I just need to leave right now.
You're like, what did I even do yesterday?
Wait, what? No. What about the random pain where you're like, I don't know where that's really located. Is there something going on? Do I need to go to the hospital immediately? Like, where is this thing that's happening to me? And then an hour later, you're like, oh, it's gone. I'm okay.
Yeah, and we do have to look. I mean, all jokes aside, what happens when it gets cold late in the year and Aaron Rodgers really doesn't want to get hit? And I'm serious. Late in the year when he's had some wear and tear on him, is this going to still look like this where he's moving around? I hope so, because this was fun last night. And I think other than Aaron Rodgers, look, one thing we need to say too, the Jets look good, not just Aaron Rodgers. They have 2 good running backs. Braylon Allen, my goodness, my alma mater, University of Wisconsin, so misused him last year. That dude is awesome. He is going to be, him and Breece Hall are maybe the best 1-2 combo in the league right now. They're really, really good. They had pass catchers step up. Look, Christian Gonzalez kind of took Garrett Wilson out of the game. He just wasn't a huge factor in this game. So Aaron Rodgers said, oh, Mike Williams is over there. Tyler Conklin had a big game, and he had guys making plays all over the place. The offensive line looked pretty good most of the night. We'll see about Morgan Moses going forward and all that. And the defense was just awesome. You could tell, again, for the first drive of the game, the Patriots can't block these guys. It's going to be such a long night for Jacoby Brissett. So I thought, but the main story last night was Aaron Rodgers and how he moved and how he looked and how he threw the ball. It looked like an MVP. But really, an underlying story here is how dominant the Jets were. That's why I fell in love with this team in the offseason, because I looked at that roster and said, this might be the NFL's most talented roster if the quarterback just comes together with it.
But there are two things that we know about Thursday Night Football. Well, one thing we know about Thursday Night Football, one we know about the Jets. On Thursday Night Football, you revert to whatever works the best for you. Like, because you don't have as much prep, you're going to go to what works best.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing that we know is that Aaron Rodgers hears everything. And look, anybody that talks to anybody around it will tell you that he listens to what the media has to say. He hears what schlubs say on different shows. Like, it's in his head. To me, I watched last night and I thought, you know what? This is vintage, because this is Aaron Rodgers telling the world, I heard you say that I wasn't mobile enough the first couple of weeks. And also Aaron Rodgers saying, by the way, when I only have basically a day of practice to get ready for a game and I have to go to what's most natural, it's still this. And this is really hard for teams to beat. I think that's sort of the inspiring message if you're a Jets fan right now, is that you saw Aaron Rodgers hear the noise, process the noise, shut the noise up, and also do what he does best in a way that's really hard to defend. I mean, there were a couple of passes there where guys fell on routes and he still found a way to get his legs moving to extend plays and then made beautiful throws downfield. See, Rob, like, it was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the rival, right? This is what, not just Jets fans, this is what the Jets organization has been waiting for. They've been dying inside to get this game. I mean, it has felt like a lifetime for that coaching staff, for the front office, just to finally get to the point where Aaron Rodgers puts tape down that they expected to still be able to happen, to occur. And not just put tape down, but put tape down that showed him doing things that I think even they weren't entirely certain he was capable of doing. I've been in Jets practices. Jory Epstein's been in Jets practices. Charles McDonald's been in Jets practices. We've been in Jets practices together and watched Aaron Rodgers look old, look tired, look like, oh, it's so hot out. And at one point, I remember being in a Jets practice where it was so hot, he had to sit down, like on the sideline. Like it was so weird. Like, I'm like, wow, I've never seen a guy kind of roll over to the sideline and literally like kind of sit down for a second. This reminds me how old Aaron Rodgers is. But like Frank said, this is the culmination of the Jets actually being a really good team, which they are. They're too deep. Their roster is very, very good. That offensive line. And again, we're going to wait and see what happens with Morgan Moses. But Olu Fashanu, right? You see this happen,
right.
and
he
then
looked great in the preseason.
Yeah, and then you what do? You check in the rookie from Penn State, a top end offensive tackle. Grandy's playing right tackle, not left tackle. But again, that is what could not happen last year. A tackle goes down.
Right.
And then you're destroyed. It's over. Like, what are we going to do now? Their depth was so good at the offensive line coming in that we watched them suffer an injury and they plugged in a young player who, granted, doesn't have experience, but definitely has talent. And to kind of hit on a point that Frank made, the Braylon Allen pick, I went through there in
the
camp.
Cowboys couldn't have used him.
Oh, my goodness. I went through there in camp and I thought, he looks pretty good. Like, this kid looks pretty good. And then when you would talk to the front office, they're like, no, we got something here. Like, we have something. And I remember watching him prior to this game, just in the limited snaps that he got. And I'm like, what happened? How did he fall in the draft the way that he ultimately did? And I know it had to do with, he didn't run a 40. He didn't do a lot of the agility stuff. And teams are like, is he just a straight line banger who, and the way it was described to me is he needs his offensive line to kind of set things up. No, I think Frank's right. I think Wisconsin misused him.
Oh,
I think the Jets found him. Like, they made a really good pick. And you see the mixture of veteran presence on that team, especially on the offensive line, that helps. But then you also see the young players that Aaron Rodgers responds to. And you guys, I want explain to me, because I don't understand it, how Allen Lazard goes from a piece that is not usable, the Jets literally staring at a hole in their salary cap because they paid this guy, and going, what happened? Like, where did he go? He's gone. We paid a guy who now no longer exists as a workable piece at the wideout position. And now all of a sudden in 2024, and Rodgers talked about it a little bit, he's back in a groove again. He's got his guy who trusts him and he's making plays. There's just so many pieces to that game against the Patriots. And again, it's a bad Patriots team. I get it. I'm not going to go get over my skis on this, but there were certain aspects of that game where you're like, it's not so much about the opponent. It's just straight up what we're seeing from the Jets roster.
And part of this too, I think, is just the confidence within the organization now of like,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it.
Yep.
And I thought the coolest moment of last night was late third quarter, Jets get the ball and the whole stadium starts, because they're blowing out the Patriots. You know where this game is going. And the whole stadium starts chanting, Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron like tells them to quiet, and they don't. They just keep chanting, because I just, trying to get in the mind meld of Jets fans here. They're like, nah, we've waited a long time for this. We don't care if you can't hear your audibles for a series. We're going to enjoy this moment. Okay. Like, we are here. We are ready to compete in the AFC East. We're ready to compete in the AFC. And I think that the team felt that. I think the front office felt that. I think the coaching staff felt that it wasn't a Tennessee game. They were still ragged in the Tennessee game. They got to win. Good for them. But this was a game where you say, this is what we expected Jets football to be with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. And I think Patriots or not, you could take this going forward and be confident that, yeah, maybe week 1 we didn't look good. Maybe week 2 was a little rough, but now we're ready. We can compete with anybody in the NFL.
I do want to address the New England side of this, where Ramondre Stevenson was a prop bet that some of our guys liked at 15.5 carries. I only mentioned that that's significant because the entire team only got 15 carries out of this game.
They just never had the ball.
They never got.
It was unbelievable. The time of possession was ridiculous.
But we did get a Drake May sighting, 4 of 8, 22 yards. 2 sacks. So this comes back to, let's just remind everybody, we've been screaming it on all of our shows. Playing Drake May might seem like a great idea, but playing Drake May might actually be a really bad idea. And Rob, I think we got a little indication of that last night.
Yeah, here's the thing about May. He checks in, it's 24-3. The defense is pinning its ears back. The offensive line is busted up at that point. They're just getting their ass kicked. And I think instantaneously everyone knew this is a little dangerous. At this point in the game, to stick him in, even with the first team defense starting to sub players out, their mentality hadn't changed. And the offensive line wasn't suddenly going to get better. And everyone knew the entire defense was coming at every opportunity at Drake May. So yeah, it was a little scary. Now, he did have a nice completion. He did lead the team down, and I was a little disappointed they didn't call their last time out and at least give him an opportunity to potentially throw a touchdown pass. It was weird, I'm like, take your time out. Give the kid a chance. He took the punishment. He led you down into the red zone. Now give him a chance to throw a ball in. I don't know if some of that is, he's been hit already. Let's not continue to risk this. And maybe we're thinking of starting him next week against San Francisco. So let's not go ahead and push our luck at this stage. But Fitz, as you said, this is, we're going to talk about rookie quarterbacks. We're going to talk about performances. We're definitely going to talk about what's going on with Caleb Williams in Chicago, which is crazy right now. And what you see, and the two guys I think we'll talk a lot about is what's going on in Washington with Jaden Daniels, where you watch and you look at the game plan and how they have specifically designed the scheme to protect him at a maximum level, basically saying, we don't trust our offensive line, so we're going to completely warp what we do and warp what his skill set is to just make sure he does not get hit on a consistent basis. Versus Chicago, where it's like, hey, yeah, we wanted to balance out the scheme and run the ball and not put it all on Caleb, but we're just going to put it all on Caleb, and he gets destroyed. And now that has become the storyline in Chicago. If you're going to play these young guys, and I'm with you, I am very much in the camp of let's sit them, park the Ferrari in the garage for year 1 and figure it out as you move forward. But if you're going to play them, make sure that you draw it up in a way where you're putting them in the most advantageous position and you're getting the ball out as fast as humanly possible if you don't have the offensive line to roll forward. And I don't think that the Patriots do with Drake May.